There will be a time. Oh, oh.
Good morning, guys, and welcome on into an episode of Getting Well with Terry and Friends, free NHL picks. I'm Terry, ready to break down the final NHL slate before the Christmas holidays, and we've got 14 games to talk about. A couple of them starting in the early afternoon, and the rest are all later tonight. Before we jump into today's slate, though, we will take a look at what happened yesterday in the NHL. Flyers money line plus 117, unfortunately, was a heartbreaking loser. It was 5-1 Detroit at one point in the second period, and I pretty much had that marked off as a loss. Philadelphia comes storming back to tie it up 6-6, and they go to overtime. And unfortunately, in the shootout, the Flyers lose. So I was upset with the Flyers. I posted on Twitter that they were frauds, and I was very upset with them. And then they were able to tie it up 6-6, just not able to get the win. So overall, that was a heartbreaking loss. But a high-scoring game for Detroit yesterday. Will we see a high-scoring game today? We'll get into that in a bit. And on the opposite side of a team trying to come back, the Rangers had a 1-0 lead, and in the third period, it just fell apart. They fell apart. The Oilers took a 4-1 lead. Rangers ended up scoring 2 more goals, making it 4-3. Of course, one was with like 0.1 seconds left or whatever. So Rangers were unable to tie it, and that unfortunately was another tough loss. And then this game, no tough losses here. Winnipeg Jets money line underdog cash plus 105. Gabriel Velarde anytime goal plus 250, and Gabriel Velarde over 2.5 shots on goal minus 110. I also did a same game parlay in this game, which I won, which had different players and stuff to get points. I did mention them all on yesterday's show, and I did end up winning a parlay there. And in the final game of the night here, I passed on the show, kind of like the last game. I did do a same game parlay. Mike Matheson to get 3 shots, which I mentioned on the show. Connor Bedard to get a point, which I mentioned on the show. And Nick Suzuki to get a point. All 3 won, so that was the same game parlay winner there. So I didn't end up passing. I ended up pulling the trigger a little bit in that one. Jump into the chat here. Winnipeg versus Boston last night. Jets first period 3-way plus 200 and money line minus 110. Very nice. Boston money line price kept falling and falling and falling. Cash it, thank goodness. Great job. Great job. Flyers were plus 1,000 money line live. They could have been bought and sold live. Yeah. If I had taken Flyers plus 1,000 and then had that shootout loss, I would have been even more upset. So I'm glad I stayed away. Rangers money line price was a trap. I don't know. Rangers just fell apart. They just fell apart. And the ice was weird. I was watching that game, and nobody's passes from either team was connecting. Everything was just off. So it was just a weird game. A weird game. Overall, great picks yesterday, Terry. Thumbs up. Thanks, Tommy. That Winnipeg Jets game was great for me. Hope people begin to see Detroit as flawed defensively and not jinxed by Keener. Yeah, he's been on a heater. We'll talk about him. He's definitely been contributing offensively the last few games for sure. Like you said, the Red Wings just struggle defensively and a net, but we'll get to that shortly here on the slate. Jump into the very first game. We got 14 games to go over, and the first one we're going to be talking about is not that one. I apologize there. Dallas Stars and the Nashville Predators. in this one. Dallas minus 130 to minus 135. Nashville plus 110 to plus 119. Sixes and 6.5s available in this game. And kind of like the Philadelphia Flyers, the Dallas Stars are a team that burns me. When I bet against them, they win. When I bet for them, they seem to struggle. So it's just, and I've noticed that. I've noticed that for quite a few weeks now. That's been pretty much actually most of the season. So looking at this game here, Nashville's playing great. Dallas is heating up now as well, 5-1-1 in their last 7. I'm going to stay away from this side, but I am going to take the over 6 here. And reason being, if you've looked at Dallas games lately, um, Dallas is scoring goals, but they're giving up goals. They've been very high scoring games lately, going over 6.5 in 8 straight games. Nashville, they've gone over 6.5 in 2 of their last 4 games. One game did finish with 6 goals. Dallas won all 4 meetings between the teams last year. I do think that Dallas probably wins. And I don't have the draw posted up here, but I would sprinkle on the draw as well in this game. I don't know why I don't have the draw listed up here, but um, assuming it's plus 330, something in that area. But I'd be betting the draw. I'd also take the over here. If you can get the over 6, take that just in case for the push. But the way Dallas has been playing, and I think Dallas dictates the pace of this game, and we get a high scoring game in this one. Looking at what's up, Terry? I smashed the like. Thank you, Richie. Stay away, Terry. Stay away. Yeah, Richie doesn't want me betting for his stars, but I'm sure you'd be okay if I bet against your stars because we know what happens then. Then they'll win. Hi, Terry. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Anthony. I hope you have a great Christmas holidays. And I didn't mention goalies in this game because there is not one confirmed goaltender on the slate today. So I guess it'll be Christmas surprises. And I'm sure we'll get some surprises when it comes to goaltending today. But in this game, Dallas could start Wedgwood, who they've been riding. They could start their AHL goalie, Matt Murray. It doesn't really matter. I think either one helps the over in this one, in this game. Heading on along to our second game of the day, which is between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers. And I forgot to mention hot players in the last game. Matt Duchene for Dallas, 0.7 of his last 8 games. Tyler Seguin has an assist. Oh, sorry, he has a point in 5 straight games. And then Philip Forsberg has a point in 5 of his last 6. So those are the 3 guys I'm targeting. You could also look at the Stars top line, Robertson, Hintz, and Pavelski as well in this one. On along to the second game, Vegas Golden Knights plus 102 to plus 117. Florida minus 122 to minus 135. 6.5s right across the board here. Now, this is an interesting game. When it comes to the total, Vegas, like Dallas, soaring over right now. They've gone over 6.5 in 8 straight games. But then if you look at Florida, Florida cannot seem to find the back of the net. They are struggling. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. In 2 of those games, they got shut out. And in the other 2 losses, they scored 1 goal in each game. You're not going to win games scoring 1 goal. You're definitely not going to win games getting shut out. So Florida's offense is struggling. Maybe Vegas, a team that's giving up goals, is a good team for Florida to face when they're struggling to score. Vegas off back-to-back losses now against Carolina and Tampa Bay. 9-5-3 on the road this year. 5-3 in their last 8 games. As I said, Florida struggling to score, struggling to win. This is a rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals from last year. Vegas won it in 5 games. Vegas 6-1-1 in the last 8 meetings between the two teams. When I look at it here, Vegas was right in that game against Tampa Bay until the end. And yes, I backed them 2 games in a row. Yes, I've got burned, but I have to go back to Vegas Golden Knights one more time here at plus 117. Um, they're just the better team for me. And I think Florida's struggled to score, will continue to struggle to score. And I think Vegas can outscore them and win this game. Looking at player props here for Florida, nobody, but that really shouldn't surprise anybody with the offense they've been getting lately. No player props there. For Vegas, Eichel has a point in 12 straight games. He has at least 4 shots on goal in 7 of his last 9. And Mark Stone has a point in 7 of his last 8 and 10 of his last 12 games. So Eichel and Stone go hand in hand together. Great parlay pieces for points in this one. Over 6.5 at plus 100 looks good. Draws plus 360. This could be a good spot for Hintz and or Forsberg and or Heiskanen. Yeah, I'm on Forsberg, and I couldn't talk anybody off Hintz. Heiskanen too is heating up. It's been heating up lately as well, so couldn't talk anybody off those. Moving on along, those are the 2 afternoon games, and then we have the night part of the slate. So 12 games later tonight. First one being the Boston Bruins heading to Minnesota to face the Wild. Boston minus 115 to minus 120. Minnesota minus 105 to plus 110. Sixes right across the board here. And I know. I've been kind of waiting for the game where I can just pass on Minnesota because, as people may or may not know that watch the show, I will not bet against the Wild. I will not bet against the Wild. People say that I have to, but I don't. I don't have to. When they are a bad team, eventually, I will bet against them. But while they're current roster that they have, I will not bet against this team. There will be times where I will obviously stay away from them or look at the total. But, and as these two teams just faced each other a few days ago, Boston, they've won 2 of their last 7 games now. So 2 wins and 5 losses. Back to back here, just facing Winnipeg last night, now facing Minnesota before going into the Christmas break. I've talked about the Wild since the coaching change, 9-3, a perfect 5-0-0 at home. They've gone to overtime in 4 of their last 5 games, winning all 4. So getting to overtime and then winning. A big part of that has been Kirill Kaprizov, who I've mentioned in the last couple of shows is looking like his superstar self. And that's huge because he hasn't for most of the season. Boston's gone to overtime in 4 of their last 5 as well. So no big surprise here. I'm on the draw, a plus 360 between these two teams. And I'm taking the Wild. I know. But you're giving me plus money for a team that is perfect at home since the coaching change. Boston on the second night of a back-to-back. This is a tough spot for them. The one thing that Boston has going for them is the revenge angle, is that they did just lose to the Wild. And they're off a tough loss last night. But I don't think that's going to be much of an advantage. I think the Wild get the win here. And it would not shock me whatsoever if it's 4-3 again. The Wild back-to-back 4-3 wins. I would not be surprised if it's 4-3 again tonight. So we could look at that. Boston coming back down to earth due to the lack of depth and missing key defensemen. Minnesota's deeper, and yet they have D injuries. Could this game go over? It could. Like I said, I think it finishes 4-3 again in overtime, and I think the Wild win. So I think it's pretty much a repeat of what happened pretty much in Boston. And yeah, Minnesota has a ton of injuries, but is finding ways to win. They're powering through it, and that's huge. That with their top 2 defensemen out now for, I think it's been 3 or 4 games, they've lost 1. So the Wild finding ways to win. Boston, And this is another reason why I really do like the Wild in this spot. Boston is going through their losing stretch right now that they really haven't gone through. They didn't go through it all last year, and they really haven't so far this year. But they're in this losing streak, and I think it continues one more game. And then we'll see what happens after the Christmas break. Richie Lean's draw. Yeah, me too. If Boston comes to play tonight, and if they are motivated, obviously after losing, and if they come to play tonight, then I like the draw. If not, I could see Minnesota winning this by margin. So it'll kind of depend on how Boston comes to play. That's why I got 2+ money bets here. Obviously, the draw, a half unit play. Looking at player props, Pasternak only got one shot on goal last night, which is extremely rare for him. I would not be shocked to see him get a bunch of shots tonight, but no props there for me. Kaprizov has a goal in 2 straight. As I said, watch out for him. Joel Erikssonek, he has at least 3 shots on goal in 14 of his last 15 games. So X shots on goal is a good look. Marco Rossi, point, 3 points in his last game. 4 of his last 6 games, he has a point. I know that's plus money. And then Brock Faber has a point in 3 straight games, playing over 30 minutes a game lately, 34 minutes against Montreal, which is unheard of, and starting to rack up the points on the top power play as well. So I look at Brock Faber, and I'm pretty sure that's pretty good plus money as well in this one. We will move on along to our next game here, which is between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Ottawa Senators. Pittsburgh minus 105 to plus 102. Ottawa minus 110 to minus 115. 6.5s right across the board here in this game. Pittsburgh 4-0-1 in their last 5 games, starting to play better hockey overall recently. Ottawa, a complete disaster right now. They've lost 6 games in a row, at least 4 goals in all 6 games. They've lost by multiple goals in 4 of their last 6 games since firing their coach. Both games they've had multiple goal leads, and both games they've blown those leads and lost in regulation. Ottawa is in trouble, and they should not be a favorite against anybody right now. Anybody. If Chicago was in Ottawa, I could understand Ottawa being a favorite. But this Pittsburgh Penguins team is playing well. Um, Easy decision here for me in this one. These two teams are going in different directions right now. Give me the Penguins at plus money against this Ottawa team that is just in free fall right now. Uh, it will not shock me if Ottawa's up 2 goals at some point and blows this lead in regulation again, because they just have issues. They have a lot of issues right now. So sorry to Sens fans. Merry gift season. Yes. Merry Christmas. Gift miss. Yeah. Oh, you're going first 10. Yes. Addison loves his goal in first 10. So there you go. I can't figure this one out, but it's screaming Pittsburgh and possibly even the over. Yeah. I have mentioned on future or previous shows when it comes to totals, I'm much more of a sides guy. So I do have 3 totals on today's slate. So that's more than enough here. I'll stick with the Sens, but um, or stick with the Sens. I'll stick with the Pens, but player props, I have some, so I do think this will be a high scoring game. Crosby is at plus 115. Anytime goal is going for number 20 on the year. Very nice, very nice. And Ottawa, Detroit, Columbus, a few teams that excel at blowing leads. Yeah, yeah, but Ottawa especially lately. Looking at player props in this one, I hope Crosby scores because he has 4+ shots on goal in 6 of his last 8, 12 of his last 15. I don't have it here on the screen, but likely I'll have Crosby over 3.5 shots on goal. He has a point in 6 of his last 8 games. Gensel's got a point on 11 of his last 13. I'll have Gensel and Crosby parlayed together. to get a point. For Ottawa, Kachuk has at least 4 shots on goal in 5 of his last 6. Drake Batherson has a point in 9 of his last 11. And Tim Stützle has a point in 8 of his last 10. I do think Ottawa will score goals in this one. I think both teams will score goals. But I think Pittsburgh finishes out on top here. So those are the players I'll be looking at in this game. Moving on along to our next one here, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning minus 130 to minus 142 to Washington, plus 115 to plus 120. 6s and 6.5s available in this game. Looking at this one, Tampa Bay back-to-back wins against St. Louis and Vegas. Of course, both games at home. Tampa Bay struggled on the road, 6-10-2 on the road this year. They've lost 6 of their last 8 road games. So this Lightning team, much better at home than on the road. And here they are, minus 130 to minus 142 on the road. Washington 9-4-2 at home this season, 5-1-1 in their last 7 home games, and 5-1-1 in their last 7 games overall. Washington has gone to overtime in 3 straight games, and like Minnesota, they've won all their overtime games recently. Looking at previous meetings between these teams, Washington 4-0-1 in the last 5 home games against Tampa Bay. Give me the Capitals, plus 120 here as a home dog. Basically for everything I just mentioned. Caps playing well right now. Bolts struggle on the road, and Caps have had success against the Lightning recently. Washington is getting it done with defense. They're getting these wins done with defense. They're not really scoring a whole lot. Dylan Strome, though, has a point in 6 straight games. So he will be someone I'll be looking at for Washington, the only player I'll be looking at for Washington. For Tampa, Braden Point has a point in 6 straight games. Kucherov has at least 3 shots on goal in 24 of his last 25 games. So a great parlay piece. Kucherov shots on goal, and he's got a point in 5 of his last 6 and 16 of his last 18 games. So those are player props I would be looking at for this game. Moving on along to our next one here, Detroit Red Wings and New Jersey Devils. Detroit plus 145 to plus 165. Jersey minus 175 to minus 190. 6.5s, a couple available, 7s everywhere else. And I locked in over 6.5, and I got it for minus 125 yesterday. And now I put it for minus 130 here because that's the best price you can get it this morning. I really would rather take the over 6.5 than the 7 in this game between these two teams. Of course, as I said, we have no goaltenders mentioned, but with Detroit losing Ville Husso and blanking on his name right now. Losing their top 2 goaltenders, James Reimer playing yesterday. Michael Hutchinson, who just got signed, looks to be making his season debut. Nobody's confirmed yet for New Jersey. New Jersey has had trouble stopping the puck all season long. And for me here in this one, Detroit's averaging 3.5 goals per game, allowing 3.25 goals against per game. New Jersey, 3.42 goals per game, 3.61 against. 4 of the last 6 teams, 4 of the last 6 games between these two teams have gone over 6.5. One of the games finished with 6 goals. This is a game where I think defense is optional. I think we get goals on both sides here. So I like the over 6.5. Looking at player props here, it won't be any big surprise on the players I'm taking here. Patrick Kane, as I said, has a point in 3 straight games, heating up for the Wings. Dylan Larkin has a point in 9 of his last 10 games, and Alex DeBrincat has a point in 2 of his last 3 games. I do believe that these 3 are now on the top, are on are on a line together now as well. Let me go and confirm that if I can find. Here it is. Pretty sure that they were put on a line together. Yes, they were. So before yesterday's game, they were put on a line together: Kane, Larkin, and DeBrincat. So the top line is stacked for the Wings. Jesper Bratt has a point in 8 of his last 10 for the New Jersey Devils. Nico Hischier has a point in 6 of his last 9 and 9 of his last 13. Those are two players I've been betting on recently. I would target them. So the top line for the Wings, guess that's the second line for the Devils. Pretty sure Jack Hughes is on the top line. So those are who I'd be targeting. Obviously the top name players here. Washington getting it done with defense. Well said. Good spot for Cooch again. I agree. Last night it was Larkin flanked by Kaner and Cat. Yeah, that's what they did. Stacking that top line, and it worked. Right off the bat. It worked. Sick. Yes. We'll move on along to our next game here. I think we're almost halfway through now. Obviously, a big slate of games today. Next one we have is between the Toronto Maple Leafs and Columbus Blue Jackets. Another game where these two teams just faced each other not too recently. So we're having a lot of games today where teams are facing each other again. Toronto minus 195 to minus 200. Columbus plus 164 to plus 174. Sevens right across the board. In this one, of course, Columbus had a 5-0 lead when they were in Toronto. Toronto came storming back before Columbus won 6-5 in overtime in the last meeting. Now we're seeing sevens here, and the last game I gave the over 6.5, and I said try to take the over 6.5. Here the 6.5 is like minus 160 or something like that. So take the over 7 here. On the show a couple days ago between Toronto and Buffalo, I'd already locked in the 6.5. I had to give out the 7 for the show purposes because of the line movement, and it was obviously a no sweat. Toronto right now, not stopping the puck, but they're scoring goals. Columbus, pretty similar. Maybe it's not 5-4 or 6-5, but I think 6-5. But I think we get a similar high scoring game than we had between these two teams in their last game. Over 7 for me here in this one. Player props: William Nylander, point in 10 straight games for the Leafs. Matthews now has a goal in 6 straight games. I think 4 of those 6 were multi-goal games as well. John Tavares has at least 4 shots on goal in 7 straight games. Like Sidney Crosby, that is probably something I'm going to be playing singly. Tavares over 3.5 shots on goal, depending on the price there. But he's done in 7 straight games, 11 of his last 13. Morgan Riley has a point in 7 of his last 8 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Johnny Gaudreau has a point in 4 straight for Columbus, and Zach Werenski has an assist in 7 of his last 11 games for Columbus. Those are the players I'd be targeting in this game. Heading along to our next one here between the New York Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes. New York plus 142 to plus 155. Carolina Hurricanes minus 169 to minus 180. Sixes right across the board here in this one. I'll be real short and sweet. I have no player props here in this one. Yes, we've seen Bo Horvat, Noah Dobson, and Marat Barzal all play really well for the Islanders recently. However, the last couple games, I believe, no points for Barzal or Dobson. Horvat didn't get a point in his last game. So, and when you look at previous history between these teams, of course, the Islanders did just end that recently this year, but Carolina has absolutely dominated the Islanders, especially in Carolina. But I have to take the draw here, just with how these two teams are playing right now. That's how I'm going to tackle this game, is just take the draw plus 370 and hope for probably a 2-2 type game here, I'm assuming. So we'll go with the draw. And I am kind of worried this is going to be, a lot of people are going to be on this draw. So that's the only thing that kind of worries me, but we'll go with it. Columbus team total over 3. Is that +1? Wow. Wow. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Of course, if there's 3 goals scored by them, you would get the push. But that's nice plus money there in that one. Heading along to our next game here, which is between the Buffalo Sabres and the New York Rangers. Buffalo +145 to +160. The Rangers -165 to -192. Sixes and 6.5s available in this game. I was on a bet win repeat on picks and parlays yesterday with Nick and Lenny and Tim, and Jesse was on there as well. And we kind of discussed this game a little bit. Tim was all happy after the big win by the Sabres over the Leafs. And I said, well, you might want to enjoy that game while it lasts, because as we've seen, the Sabres have not won multiple games since November 1st. They do win a game, and then they completely lay an egg in their next one. Had the Rangers won yesterday, had they were leading 1-0, had they won that game 2-0 or 3-0 or 3-1, then I could potentially understand why you'd want to look at the Sabres to end that drought of not winning back-to-back games. However, the Rangers didn't win that game yesterday, and they blew it. And I just look at how they blew that game, and I just don't see that team not coming back here in this one. And I'm putting a statement game here. I think it's a statement game. Obviously, the Sabres won against the Rangers in the opening game of the season in New York, and now they face each other here again in New York. I have to go with the Rangers in regulation, just because of how, like I said, the Sabres stringing games together and how this Rangers team lost yesterday. I think they're extremely motivated in this one. Final game before the break. I think Rangers win this game in regulation. Player props. Mika Zibanejad has a point in 14 of his last 15 games for the Rangers. He's been on fire. Panarin has a point in 7 of his last 9. Adam Fox has an assist in 7 of his last 10. Rasmus Dahlin has a point in 5 of his last 6 for the Sabres. He did have at least 3 shots on goal in 10 straight. Of course, that did come to an end last game. So 10 of his last 11. And Peterka has at least 3 shots on goal in 7 of his last 8 games for the Sabres. Going along, we got 4 more games left here, and the next one is between the Seattle Kraken and the Anaheim Ducks. Seattle -140 to -150. Anaheim +120 to +135. Sixes right across the board in this game. And when it comes to this one, I'm passing. And the reason being, the Kraken are -140 to -150. So I would have to take the Kraken in regulation. I do not feel comfortable doing that. This game could very well go to overtime. But I want to bet the Kraken in some form. So basically, for this game, Kraken money line as a parlay piece, because I do like the Kraken to win this game. I'm just not pulling the trigger on it single because it's out of my price range, and not pulling the trigger in regulation because I could see this game going to overtime for sure. So I'm not getting involved there. Player props are very difficult for the Kraken right now. Henrique has been on fire for the Ducks, but of course, I bet him in his last game, and he didn't get anything. So maybe I jinxed him because I hadn't been betting him before, and of course, I jump on and it ends. So no player props here for me in this one. I'll back the Kraken on the money line as a parlay piece, but that's about it here in this one. Let's go Ducks. All right. Matthew Beniers has 3 goals in 4 games versus Anaheim last year. Yanni Gourde in his 500th NHL game. Thank you, Rye Guy. Of course, Ryan's been on the show last year and did some NHL previews with us. A Kraken fan, so definitely follows the Kraken. Interesting about Gourde, 500th NHL game. I like that. And Beniers, it's been a letdown year for him for sure. But that's going to happen to young players. That's going to happen. Grian Washington, Vegas. Awesome. Of course, it's the Kraken. Of course. Kucherov has 299 goals. And the way he shoots the puck every game, I don't think that's going to last very long. Of course, being on Washington, he can wait till after the Christmas break to get number 300. That's fine with me. Moving on along to our next game here, which is between the Chicago Blackhawks and the St. Louis Blues. Chicago plus 200 to plus 218. St. Louis minus 238 to minus 250. Sixes. Right across the board, I do see a couple 6.5s available as well in this game. And, well, no big surprise here. Completely pass in this game. Blackhawks, if I was ever going to bet the Blackhawks, this would be the price I'd be doing it at plus 200. I'd put their plus 1.5 is minus 110. So maybe I'd potentially look at that route. The issue, though, is the Blues have been playing well. The Blues have been playing well since the coaching change, and I think they do win this game. Of course, they're minus 238. So you can't even go really within regulation, which is probably like minus 130, minus 140. So I'd be forced to take the Blues on the puck line, and I'm not doing that. So luckily, there's 14 games on today's slate, and you can pass on some. And this is definitely one that I'm passing on. No interest here. Beniers heating up as Seattle's been upticking and looking like the Kraken of last year. Awesome. I wish him the best. Yanni and Beniers plus 212 to both get a point, says Golfing Stars fan. Very interesting. But we've got 3 more games left. We'll go into the next one, and I definitely do have a play in this game. And it's between the Arizona Coyotes and the Colorado Avalanche. Arizona plus 180 to plus 186. Colorado minus 210 to minus 220. 6.5s right across the board here. I did obviously bet my games last night, and I got Arizona plus 1.5 at minus 120. Of course, now the line has moved here. I do see it's minus 130, minus 135 in some spots. So if you don't have access to the minus 125, I would cut the bet in half and put a half unit instead on Yotes money line, or use the Yotes plus 1.5 as a parlay piece. Reason being, obviously the Yotes are on a winning streak. They've been playing really well, 4 games in a row, and they've won 9 of their last 13 games, which included a 4-3 win against this Avalanche team in Arizona. The Avalanche 4-4 in their last 8, and they've just looked inconsistent. They were losing to Ottawa, of course. Both of these two teams were the 2 teams that were losing by multiple goals to the Senators. Both teams coming back, and now these teams face each other, which is really interesting. Arizona 4-1-2 in the last 7 meetings between the teams. 4 wins, 2 overtime losses, and obviously 1 regulation loss. Arizona was a huge underdog when these 2 teams faced in Arizona. I got the plus 1.5 for minus 110, and we've seen what Arizona's done since then. I like the Yotes here, plus 1.5 to keep this game close, and I may end up sprinkling on the money line as well, because it's just a really high price. But I do like the plus 1.5. Player props: Clayton Keller has a goal in 3 straight games for the Coyotes. I will most likely be adding his anytime goal as well. At least 3 shots on goal in 5 straight games for Keller. Michelli has a point 8 of his last 10. Matthias Michelli has a point 8 of his last 10 for Arizona. He has at least 3 shots on goal in 6 of his last 8. And then for Colorado, no big surprise here. McKinnon has a point in 17 straight games. Rantanen has a point in 6 straight games. McKinnon has at least 3 shots on goal in 9 of his last 12. And Rantanen has at least 3 shots on goal in 6 of his last 7. So when it comes to parlay pieces, McKinnon, Rantanen points, both guys to get 3 shots on goal are definitely good parlay pieces. I could see a similar score, 4-3, 3-2 type thing in this game. Why not team total for the Blues? That's a good question. I'll be honest, haven't really done a lot of team totals this year. I've really noticed the odds have changed a lot from last year. I found there's not as much value looking at team totals. So I haven't really looked at team totals much. That's a way you could look at the Blues, but I think you'd probably have to go 3.5. I'm not sure what that price would be, but not sure. Cooley, Keller, McKinnon plus 375. This is McKinnon to score. All 3 guys to score, or Cooley point, Keller point. But best of luck. I do think Keller scores. McKinnon probably scores. Haven't looked at Cooley's numbers recently. Going along to our second last game before we have the final game of the night. And this one is between the San Jose Sharks and Vancouver Canucks. San Jose plus 240 to plus 260. Canucks minus 290 to minus 300. 6.5s right across the board here in this game. And the Sharks now 9-21-3 on the season, 3-13-1 on the road. They had their decent stretch of hockey where they were upsetting teams and keeping games close. But now going back to the Sharks, we more or less expected. They've lost 4 games in a row. Their last 3 games were all by 3 or more goals that they lost. So they've got beat up their last few games. Vancouver 6-0-2 in their last 8, coming off the 4-3 overtime loss against Dallas. Looking at previous meetings between these two teams, I mentioned it on the show when these two teams faced each other already this year. Vancouver is now 13-2 in the last 15 meetings between the teams, winning 10 of the 13 games by multiple goals. They beat the Sharks 10-1 and 3-1 this year. And then the Sharks did it. They finally beat the Canucks, winning 4-3 in San Jose during their hot streak. But now the hot streak's over, and now we're getting the Canucks at home where they've been great all season long. Yes, it's minus 120 to minus 125, but give me the Canucks on the puck line. I believe I got it for minus 115 last night, but I like the Canucks to take care of business here against a divisional rival they've dominated. Brock Besser to get a point in 11 of his last 13 games. He has at least 3 shots on goal in 6 straight games. And JT Miller, leading point scorer for the Canucks, has a point in 5 of his last 7. The players I've been looking at, Quinn Hughes has a point in 2 straight. Maybe Quinn Hughes is starting to heat up as well. But those are the players I'll be looking at. And I expect a dominant win here by the Canucks. Keller point, Cooley point, McKinnon goal. All right. I like it. I do. I like it. Quinn Hughes is due. Yes, we could see him. We could see him break out here. Harley has tied him in points for a defenseman now. Wow. Really? Interesting. Quinn will come out firing. I agree. I agree. But we've got one more game on the slate, and then that'll be it for 3 days until after their Christmas holidays. Final game on the slate: Calgary Flames and LA Kings. Calgary plus 130 to plus 135. LA Kings minus 146 to minus 155. Sixes right across the board here. And for the final game of the night, I'm passing. I know, I hate to do it, but um, with the Flames, I've been on the wrong side of their player props. Of course, the hottest players recently: Connor Zary, Igor Sharangovich, and Blake Coleman. But I've been on the wrong sides of their props. Coming in here to face the Kings, who are, guess we could say, starting to cool off a little bit. Obviously, they were dominant for a long stretch of the year. 5-6-3 at home. So the Kings have also struggled at home overall. And coming off a loss to Seattle, Flames have won 3 in a row. This game I just don't have good feelings about this game. So I'll be paying more attention to the Sharks Vancouver game here and passing this one. Passing. Sprinkle parlay Quinn brothers. Interesting. Um, all three, or just Hughes and Jack? Let us know. Kings in the over would be in the plus 150 minus 200, or plus 150 to plus 200 is probably. Great show. Enjoyed watching and hearing picks. Thank you, Golfing Stars fan. Thank you. But that is it. That is today's show. Best luck to everybody. Of course, everyone have a Merry Christmas. Have a great holidays, whatever you celebrate. Have a good time with your family and a good time watching sports. And we'll be back on Tuesday. When the next slate of games are back, we'll be back. But thanks everyone for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll see you again. Thanks, guys.